go. All right.
Hello,
Greg,
Ian.
how's it going?
It's good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. I hope that you were able to enjoy a little bit of rest over the holiday break. I understand you were doing a little bit of travel.
I did. Did a trip to New York. I did a trip to Chicago over the holiday period, and then I've got those are easy trips though. New York and Chicago, I can get there pretty easily. But this month, Mexico City and Lisbon, Portugal. So it's a
Mm,
little bit the travel is going to be a bit much, but I actually like these periods when I get to be at home for a couple weeks.
yeah. Hey, me too. Me too. I'm a homebody personally. Yeah, and you were telling me you got to go see Marty Supreme. You told me that you've got a little bit of trivia, some family
Oh yeah,
some family trivia.
no, I was just
What's
telling you.
about
I was
that?
just for those for the audience. There in my family tree, there was somebody who was the U.S. table tennis champion about 20 years before Marty Supreme, who was a big deal for a lot of years, and those two guys knew each other.
Yeah, and good movie. We both ended up seeing Marty Supreme over our breaks, and yeah, 10 out
I
of 10
highly
for me.
recommend it. There was a great article, by the way, in New York Times talking about how they filmed the ping pong scenes,
Mm,
which were pretty awesome. If you see the movie, how they make Timothy Chalamet really look like he's an amazing tennis player, and
yeah.
apparently he was all of the movements and everything are real. It was the ball was the AI insertion on
Well,
there. The
that makes ping pong pretty easy if you don't have to worry about where the ball is actually going.
Apparently, yeah, but it is a great movie.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Well, with 2026, Greg, coming in, we've got, first of all, some really exciting news from the ABA and their announcement. And we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to get some of your predictions for 2026 and where legal technology is going to go this year. And you can give us some predictions and we'll sort of see at the end of the year. We can maybe revisit and see if these things come together. So no pressure.
You're going to hold me accountable.
We'll see. We'll see if we get a lot of them right. Absolutely, we will. But yeah, just to introduce for everybody, where this is Immigration Legal Tech Conversations. We're presented by Visa Law AI, which is immigration intelligence you can trust. And during Immigration Legal Tech Conversations, we explore the evolving landscape of legal technology and dissect innovative applications. This week, we're talking about 2026 predictions here with Greg, and we're going to see where we think the year is going. And I think the ABA task force guidance that was put out earlier is a pretty good place to start in terms of just how things are going to be governed and what the experts are saying we need to look out for in terms of guidance and what is the appropriate use of AI, which is obviously going to be the big talking point for the foreseeable future on these topics.
Yeah, so the ABA, I mean, the ABA has been pretty out front on AI since since ChatGPT became a thing in late 2022. In fact, one of the first ethics they did a CLE program in January of 2023 that I was a panelist on. It's a and then they followed it up. They've had this task force, this ABA task force on law and artificial intelligence for a couple of years. They also issued a formal ethics opinion, which doesn't directly impact lawyers because it's because your state bar rules are what you have to follow, and your state bar ethics opinions are what you have to follow. But they generally influence what state bars are doing in a pretty significant way. So they issued that ethics opinion, which has been already had quite an impact on the field. And this is sort of their final report for this task force that they were issuing. And I guess that the main takeaway from it is that they are no longer talking about AI in terms of being something that's experimental or theoretical. It's fully operational. And basically, they're talking in this report about how AI is now embedded across legal practices, courts, law schools, access to justice initiatives, and that the challenge is shifting from whether to use AI to how to use it responsibly, competently, and at scale. So, the report itself it's about, I think it's about 45 pages or so. It's a fairly lengthy document, but they do talk about a lot of important themes. The importance of protecting the rule of law through having trustworthy AI, growing the growing role of courts in scrutinizing AI-driven decision making. And we've seen what started as a handful of cases of lawyers who've gotten into trouble to now, I think, at least in one of the tracking sites, there's close to 700. The importance of human oversight, transparency, accountability, and then they also get into the risks. Not just hallucinations, which a lot of people, have talked about, and that's going to be an ongoing problem, even though I think it's improving, and also there's a lot of ways to mitigate it. But more disconcerting issues like deepfakes and disinformation. It's really going to create a challenge for lawyers and judges when when it's so easy to manipulate or fake evidence in a case. And there's so a lot of the worry is not so much whether you're using AI or not, but when it's being used maliciously. How do you even address that? And that's going to be, I think the issue of deepfake evidence is one right now that is more theoretical. I mean, it has happened in a few instances, but I think it's going to rapidly become a major problem. It's funny. There's a TV show that my wife and I watch called The Morning Show. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's on Apple TV. It's the one with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon and John Hamm, and it's a really good show. But that was in their latest season, a deep fake of a surveillance video where they manipulate the voice on the video to say something and potentially cost a person their career. That's sort of it's they talk about it in that show, but it was you think it's sort of, I guess a lot of people probably think this is going a little too far. But it's really not, as far as like what they showed in the show. I'll give a little premise for how this comes up. It's about a major news network or a major network that has a news division, and they're going to be covering the Olympics, and the main anchor, the main anchor in the show. They're working on this AI that will basically let you have the anchors read the stories in whatever language you want to be read in, and it's basically sort of like what's already out there as far as the products. And I think we've talked about them before, like Hey Gen and some of the others. Mm-hmm. They're out there, but essentially they develop a product like that, and then somehow the training gets used for the voice training, at least gets used to manipulate the surveillance video. And anyway, the point on it is that that's something that is already happening in the real world. And it's just a matter of time, I think, before that becomes a big problem for courts. So that's one of the things that they address in the report, at least recognizing that they have to deal with that. And they also talk about, AI's ability to improve efficiency and expand access to justice and reduce routine burdens on lawyers. And that's stuff, that's territory that's been covered in other reports. But the report itself, I think I linked it the other day on my LinkedIn account. We should probably push it out.
Yeah, we can share it, and I'll even I'll throw it up here on screen. I've actually got got it available. So I'll throw that up, and I'll also put it into the chats as you continue to discuss it.
Yeah. So anyway, the AI. I mean, I think that they're right that that it's now infrastructure and not innovation when we're talking about using AI, and that the profession is beyond experimentation. And now it's just a question, I think, of making focusing on how best to be using AI products, how to sort of the way that I think the way to look at it is, kind of the way other technologies have been adopted. Email, for example, was considered to be experimental 30 years ago. It was only a small percentage of the lawyers had access to it. There were a lot of ethics questions surrounding it, whether you can send an email without violating confidentiality rules, because in theory, unless your email was encrypted, it could be that somebody could access your email en route. Those are all big questions. And then, it got to a point where it grew so quickly and it was being used so broadly that I think the profession had to take a more practical approach and talk about not so much whether you could use email, but how to make sure you were using it in an ethical way. And I think that's sort of what's happening right now with the ABA, where they are not questioning whether AI should be used in practices. I think they've sort of moved beyond that to say that it's happening and it's not going to stop happening. The only question is sort of how do we set structure and rules around it so that it's being used responsibly.
And the ABA also, I thought, was interesting, offered some use cases as well. They sort of outlined specific guidance on how it could be used. And so they, especially with general models, and one thing that they do differentiate in here, and I hope that I can find the page quickly, if not, then we'll just move along with it. But it outlines these use cases, but it also, it's right here, this is judicial use cases.
Right, these are for the courts.
But one thing that sort of goes across both of these areas is they make sure some of the limitations that we should look out for are just based on the proprietary databases that these are pulling from. And so I think this is a good example. I think when we talk about like Visa Law AI, for example, versus ChatGPT, what differentiates Visa Law, and this is not a sales pitch, this is just sort of to outline this information. Visa Law has this proprietary immigration database, which makes it excellent for immigration lawyers. But there are still use cases for using general LLMs that are pulling, from the internet. But you're not going to get that specific expert-led advice.
I'll give you an example of something that I think is a way to differentiate. There are instances where you want to cast a wide net and go out into the broad world to be pulling information in when you're working on something. So, if you're asking a question about the law, or a nuanced question about immigration law, you want to use a quality data set, and you want to have something that where you see where you have citations and you can go dig into the documents that are being cited to be able to verify what you're seeing. But excuse me, a better example of where you would use a general tool might be if you were doing a country conditions report, for example, for an asylum petition. And that's one where you may want to gather, you want to see a lot of news articles, you want to see a lot of human rights reports that are out there, you want to see what you can find and have it compile that for you. And actually, that's one where, I've had people ask, well, would I ever want to pay for ChatGPT's Pro version, which I think is $200 a month, and I have it because I have to, as part of my work, I have to know what's have that available. But I have used it for in a lot of occasions the Pro, because they have basically research. I guess the way they describe it is with ChatGPT is it's uh, it's research grade intelligence is what they call their pro model. And I mean, you ask it a question like to help me develop you want a prompt for a good prompt for creating a country conditions report, and then run that, go away for 20 minutes because that's about how long it's probably going to take you to compile what it's going to compile. And then when you get back, you're going to have really strong set of research links that are in there. And that's where you would want to be going out into a general AI. I think there are also a lot of examples of anything that's basically not involving client confidential information, or that's more fact based than law based. Research that you're doing, then I would use a general tool. If you are doing something that you're going to be putting in confidential information, you can still use a general tool, but you need to use it behind a privacy wall. So in Visa Law, we set something up called Private GPT, which is essentially just Chat GPT without the information sharing. So you can use it without having to worry about violating confidentiality rules. But it's not the only tool that's out there that does it. And there are others that do it. We put that feature in as a convenience for our users. We didn't basically build the product around that feature. But that's the difference, where you'd want to use. And you also want to have some ability to use a tool that's designed for research. So if you're using ChatGPT, the pro version, it is able to detect that it's doing a research task, and it'll set its temperature on a very conservative level, so that the focus is going to be a lot more on accuracy if you're using it for something like that. If you're just in just plain old free or $20 a month ChatGPT, you may not be getting that level of accuracy. And when we're talking about temperature, just so people know what it is, it's basically the distance between words that the algorithm is using to compile the answer. And if it's a very low temperature, it's going to be super conservative as far as compiling answers for you. And the answers are very likely going to be closely aligned with the question. If you give it more leeway and it has a higher temperature and it's a broader distance between words, it may be a lot more of an interesting answer, but it's not necessarily it's going to be a lot more likely to stray in terms of accuracy. And that's a lot of times where hallucinations have happened for lawyers when they are using the wrong tool for what it is that they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's that ability to give the AI sort of imagination and creativity that can get you into trouble there. And yeah, so I've just been going through the ABA task force guidance. Obviously, this is 56 pages, but there's really a lot of great resources, and they've got a ton of links within this guidance. And I've included links on the Visa Law YouTube stream as well as the LinkedIn stream. So if anybody's watching on there and they want access to it, you can find it there in the comments. And feel free to comment as well if you have any questions as we work through today.
I mean, this report, your report's great. I think the one thing that there were a couple of little bullet points of interest. One is that they said one of the while hallucinations and confidentiality and automation bias and other things are still problems requiring human supervision, they did say one of the bright spots that they looked at was access to justice is initiatives have really been enhanced, and there's a lot of really interesting initiatives around that, bringing basically legal services to communities that haven't seen them before. That's talked about in the report. It's worth reading. They talk about AI competence becoming part of basic professional competence and not a specialty skill. And I think the point on that is that all lawyers are basically going to have to figure out how to use this technology, and it's just a matter of time that's over which that's going to happen. And basically, lawyers who do not engage with AI risk falling behind emerging ethical, economic, and client expectation norms. So I mean, I think that's sort of the overall takeaway from the report is that you you need lawyers who think that they can put off much longer having to deal with it are probably going to feel themselves forced to take that task on, and it's probably better to start dealing with it now rather than scrambling later on to figure it out.
And I think that's a really great point, Greg. And I think the thing that pops out to me, sort of about the practical application of of getting people to use generative AI or learn generative AI, that sticks out to me is, or a question that I might have about it is what are how are people going to get up to speed on this? Is there structured curriculum, or is this something that people are just going to have to sort of um, get into and start using ChatGPT for tasks, or are there places that they can go to get actual training on these things?
Well, the answer is both. People need to, I think people need to at least have access to one or more of these tools, and they can use them for home use. And I tell people a lot of times start with get a ChatGPT account or a Google Gemini account or a Claude account or whichever tool you want to use, and start using it for low stakes, low stakes questions. I use it all the time for asking about questions on like health and nutrition questions. I'll ask it. It usually gives pretty good answers. Sports questions, it's really helpful for that. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do where you don't really have to worry too much about. Or I guess on health, you do have to. It depends on what you're asking for. But you can use it for those kinds of things that don't really have a potentially putting clients at risk or anything of that sort. I I use it a lot of times to help me like as a coach, if I'm trying to work on like one task that you could do right now. You can say, here's my list of New Year's resolutions, ChatGPT. I want you to be my coach for the year, and keep me, hold me accountable and ask me how I'm doing every day on this, and give me suggestions or tips on how to meet these resolutions. And you'd be surprised that you'll probably get a pretty wonderful answer, and have a pretty good conversation with the AI for something like that. That's how you would start, sort of at an informal level. But you do need to, I think every lawyer should be taking CLE classes when they can, on how to use the tools that they are getting training in if their law firms make training available, take advantage of that. And there's a lot of programming that is out now, especially in the CLE space on that question. And I'd also suggest not limiting it to the lawyers in your firm that are getting that training, but also your staff and your paralegals, your other administrative staff should also be getting similar training. So that's where I would probably start with that. But I think that the easiest way to get comfortable with the technology is just to start using it, and then eventually graduate to more complex tasks when you feel like you have a good handle on it. But I think a lot of lawyers get into trouble because they don't get the ethics training beforehand, and so that's probably where I would start with the CLE is getting a good handle on that.
Absolutely. I think those are great points. And yeah, again, if people are interested, the ABA guidance, the task force, the 2-year report is available. You can find it on Greg's LinkedIn, and we've put it in the comments here. It really is a fantastic resource. I'm going to be still poring over it. There's really a lot of great information in here, and really good guidance. And so, any last points do you have on sort of the ABA task force, Greg, as sort of bottom line notes that people should know?
No, I mean, I know several of the people that were involved in the drafting of the report, and they're pretty they're pretty uh, uh, influential thought leaders in the space. So I think people will appreciate it when they read it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, sort of on that note, as we just while we're here and we're thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and put up on the screen a QR code in case you want to download the AI evaluation sheet from Visa Law. This is sort of our guidance put together by our team of experts. Some questions that are important to think about when you're considering how you want to use and implement AI into your legal practice. The ABA's got some guidance as well in that guide, so I'd encourage you to look through that. But if you want to look through visa laws, you can pull it up here. I've got it on the screen, so you can find it there, and I'll put a link in as well to the various chats too. Moving along though, Greg, I want to, as we're getting started in 2026, and so there's a lot of yeah, whether you like it or not,
you've graduated to 2026.
That's right. And so with that, we want to know, things are moving forward. AI is getting bigger. People are using it more. We know this. And we want to know from you, Greg, as our resident expert, what's real, what's hype, how are people going to be impacted? What is going to change in immigration work? And yeah, I just want to get some of your predictions and your insights and see where you think things are heading. So with our sort of first question, I'm going to present to you. What is one thing that will surprise immigration lawyers in 2026 in regards to immigration technology? And if you want to take this more broadly, if you want
to, I will say you sent me a couple of these questions ahead of time, so I had a chance to think a little bit about them. It's not completely spontaneous. And when you sent me that question, I was thinking, it's like, what's the one thing that will surprise immigration lawyers in 2026? I was like, about immigration or about technology and immigration. So I was kind of like I kind of thought about it in terms of the alternative, sort of like I have my answer is an immigration lawyer, and my answer is sort of an immigration law technologist, I guess, if that's what you want to call me. On the immigration law, I think immigration lawyers will be surprised by how resilient the immigration system turns out to be, despite the flood of the executive orders and the regulations and the policy shifts and trying to overturn the statutes that Congress is in theory in charge of. I think the judges will play an increasingly central role as immigration lawyers are like turning more frequently to litigation to check overreach. So there was a case in the Supreme Court that most people on the left of center were not happy with, that overturned Chevron, which is the administrative law case. And basically that case gave federal agencies a lot of leeway to interpret statutes. And the Supreme Court, after decades and decades, overturned that and said basically the agencies have a lot less leeway and have to stick a lot more closely to the actual statutes. And it was an environmental case that was the Supreme Court was hearing, but it affected immigration because it means that the White House can't just basically take a statute and stretch it so far that it has no bearing to what Congress actually intended with it. And that's going to be used more and more by lawyers as they try and attack administration policies. And I do think that here's a prediction. I think that the Democrats are going to win back not just the House of Representatives. That's the sort of the easy prediction, but they're going to win back the Senate as well. And that's going to mean, pretty much 2026 will end probably with cutting off funding for some of the initiatives the administration is trying to take on. It's going to probably mean that some of the appointments that the administration wants to do on judges and others will start to that they're going to have a harder time. So I imagine they're going to try and get as much done, the administration, this year, because I think they are probably knowing what's going to be happening in the elections in the fall. So that's the immigration prediction. The technology prediction. I think immigration lawyers are going to be surprised by how completely AI becomes woven into their workday. Right now, most of the time, people are thinking of AI as a tool that they're using for research or drafting. Um, and I think by the end of the year, we're going to see lawyers and paralegals that are going to be interacting with AI virtually every hour of the day in their practices. And so the lawyers will be using AI in their consultations. That's the AI will be taking notes, generating transcripts, triggering follow-up automations like drafting engagement letters, flagging strategy issues, red flags that the lawyer might not have picked up on. All that's going to be happening there. Lawyers may be using AI to do simultaneous translation for them, where the clients are speaking one language, the lawyers are getting an instant translation into whatever language they want, and then it'll be vice versa with the clients. I think it's going to people, paralegals and lawyers are going to be using AI to review petition packages to confirm that the forms are completed correctly, required evidence is included, filings are going to the right place, nothing obvious has been missed, and firms are going to use AI to scan their case management systems to identify which clients are affected by policy changes, priority date movements, new adjudication trends, and basically letting AI sort of sit side by side with them all day long, that they in helping them accomplish the tasks that they're already doing every day, helping them to do them faster and also helping them to avoid mistakes.
Yeah, it's so basically, bottom line, AI is going to become much more ingrained.
Yeah, and it's not going to
day.
be one AI tool. It'll probably be AI tools that are embedded in a lot of different software products that they use. There may be, an AI brain of sorts that's core, using agents, and that's something that we're definitely working on at our company, to kind of pull in, and coordinate data from a lot of different places. But it's basically I don't think lawyers are going to have to, change up the products that they're using. It's just they're going to have a lot more capabilities with the software they already have in place.
Gotcha. So, in a lot of ways, these tools will hopefully make practice, and the day-to-day operations easier. So this sort of goes into my next question, Greg, which is, where do you think that immigration practice will get harder and not easier in 2026?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's going to get harder just because we have an administration that would like to stop all immigration. And that's going to mean that we have to be more creative, to achieve results for our clients, achieve things that used to be routine are now going to take a lot more work and potentially having multiple strategies that a lawyer will be looking at and trying to evaluate on the fly what's the best one and what order to be trying things in. I also think lawyers are going to, this policy volatility isn't going to go away, and litigation is something that most immigration lawyers kind of watch on the sidelines and are not actively participating in themselves. And I think there will be a lot of immigration lawyers that are going to have to learn how to be litigators, and it's scary. But either they're going to do it themselves or they're going to have to partner up with firms that do it and be a lot more involved in the process than they have been, because you're just not going to be able to solve problems with administrative appeals and things like that have worked in the past. And I think that, lawyers are going to have to advise clients not just on what the law is today, but likely what's coming next. And that means that they're going to have to track proposed rules, informal guidance, executive signals, and litigation being done by others as part of that. So, I say there have been lawyers, and this is going to be a tough year financially for a lot of law firms because for two reasons. One is that a lot of clients, in the business and employment space, a lot of clients are getting really nervous about filing anything. And there may not be things that you can file because the administration has placed roadblocks. So, I think lawyers are going to be feeling financial pressure. That's one part of it. And the other part of it is I think the economy could very well be going through a very difficult time in 2026, regardless of what's happening on the immigration space. Although, arguably removing all these immigrants from the economy is going to sort of exacerbate that, but that's sort of that's an aside. So there will be a lot of economic pressures this year, and I'm kind of reminded in 2008, 2009, when firms were struggling, not because immigration law disappeared, but because uncertainty and economic stress hit at the same time. I also am relatively optimistic that this is just like when COVID came, all of a sudden there were a lot of adaptations that had happened, especially with technology. Nobody knew what Zoom was before 2019, 2020, or they barely knew about it. It's hard to believe that we're only like 5 or 6 years into this technology. But it was a workaround. And I think AI is going to be similar, where a lot of firms are going to be facing a lot of financial pressure, and are looking at ways to, immigration law being mostly flat billed, is a good practice area for AI, because if you're able to achieve efficiencies and automations using AI, you should be able to improve your profitability. So if you're facing a lot of financial pressure, but you're able to lean in and use AI tools, that may be able to help offset a lot of the expenses that you're dealing with right now. So I think that when we're talking about staying current on rapidly changing immigration developments, brainstorming alternative strategies for clients, communicating quickly about what's happening, being able to draft much less expensively for your clients, all of those use cases save time and deliver cost efficiencies, and that will hopefully make it easier for firms to absorb the economic headwinds without cutting quality.
Yeah, well, that was that was there. I think there's a lot of things to be nervous about in 2026. From a business standpoint, from a practice standpoint, but there's like you said, also a ton of opportunity for these technologies to sort of step in, and for adoption to increase. With that said, what are sort of with AI being a large sort of current shift, what are some of the quiet shifts that lawyers aren't talking about or hearing about right now that are happening at the same time?
Well, on this one, I will basically lean a little bit more on the AI side rather than the immigration law side. But I think that lawyers are not appreciating yet how AI is already changing the lawyer-client relationship. A lot of client, whether the lawyer is using AI or not, there's a pretty decent chance that the client is using AI, and they are, and we've talked about this before, and I've written articles about it. But clients are increasingly using AI to search for and then screen lawyers, doing more due diligence about law firm lawyers that they're thinking about hiring than lawyers are used to seeing. Much like they are using AI to research buying a product or using AI to learn about a subject. I mean, they are seeing this sort of just as one more thing before they, are about to write a big check or cut a credit card expense for using a particular immigration law firm. They want to learn as much about them as possible. And then I think that there's even in my firm, which I think is pretty AI forward, obviously, there's a lot of discussions on the teams about the ChatGPT lawyers, who are, and I usually kind of smile during those conversations, because some of the lawyers in the firm, I think, are not quite sure what to make of it. But there are a lot of clients that are using AI to educate themselves about the legal process and about immigration law. And that is good news, I think. Better informed clients, they're often more engaged, more likely to understand and follow a strategy that the lawyer lays out if they have if they kind of get the bigger picture. And a lot of them do now, because they have, gotten an AI tutorial on the subject that they're applying for. but it also creates friction. That's sometimes clients arrive with a fully, formed plan from from the ChatGPT lawyer, and the ChatGPT is missing key facts or context, or is just giving, is basing the answer not necessarily on the most up to date information, or things that lawyers are hearing about on listservs and in conversations with other lawyers about what's happening that may not be apparent from anything that you're going to see online. And these clients might not be happy when the lawyer has to dismantle the plan that the client came in with and kind of explain why it's not a winner, and why they're not interested in taking the matter if that's what's going to be happening. So that's and we also talked about sort of this mundane use case for AI, but it's language access, and real-time AI translation is changing how lawyers communicate with clients who speak other languages. And it's going to make consultations with clients easier when you don't have to have a questionable translator in the middle. That's not a professional translator, but a family friend or relative. It's going to make written communications easier and more inclusive in immigration practice. And these are just ways that lawyers are dealing with clients. But I do think that that's what people are not talking about yet, is how our clients are using AI and how that affects you, the lawyer, versus just how you're using AI to do your legal work.
Yeah, and it's something that we've talked about before, both on this stream and sort of separately. But like that, the need for more touch points and more sort of one-on-one service and relationships with these clients. And I think ultimately for the client experience, that could be a really, really positive thing in both your comfortability and your understanding of the process and what's happening, and just overall satisfaction with your lawyer. I think that could be all really great things that we could look forward to with that increased adoption and understanding that you're talking about. So, Greg, those are sort of our general discussion topics. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them in, and we'll discuss them. But we're going to get into the lightning round here. So I've got a number of questions for you. I'm going to toss at you, and you can give your short answer, whether that's one word, one sentence, or as short as you can possibly make it, given these topics.
I'm not a man of brevity, but we'll see how I do. But I might give you a sentence. How about that? One sentence.
A sentence is great. A sentence is perfect. Right. And then we can come back to any of these if we need to. So let's go ahead and start through these. So I'm gonna toss these at you sort of one by one. So
okay.
By 2026, using general purpose AI for legal research will be
modestly improved, but still insufficient. And I just mentioned that. This is the sentence. There's still going to be a lot of materials that aren't freely available online, and the hallucination problem is not going to be solved, and confidentiality concerns are still going to make those tools inappropriate for serious legal research.
All right, next question. Immigration firms that don't adopt AI by 2026 will
be shopping for an AI tool by the end of the year. AI is going to will look like buying computers for your office 35 years ago, first a luxury and then an absolute necessity.
The biggest AI risk for immigration lawyers is
violating ethics rules when using AI, including exposing confidential information, failing to verify citations, and not supervising staff using the tools. Now, you can tell I wrote that out, but I wanted to be precise about that. That was the problem going into 2025. It's the problem going into 2026.
Absolutely. And yeah, I don't see that changing anytime soon. In 2026, clients will expect lawyers to
be up on the latest immigration policy changes and have creative strategies to help clients navigate them.
The biggest misconception lawyers have about AI?
They underestimate how much the technology has improved in the last 3 years. They're assuming basically news that they got in 2022, 2023 is still exactly on point, and the products are a lot better.
in 2026 paralegals and support staff should?
Receive the same AI training lawyers are getting and be involved in AI adoption decisions at their practices.
What's one task that immigration lawyers should never outsource to AI?
Exercising legal judgment. The lawyer still has to be the lawyer, not the AI.
And in 2026, staying current will rely more on blank.
Not trusting your memory alone and regularly using AI to refresh your knowledge and flag outdated analysis.
And the most dangerous source of immigration misinformation today is?
The Trump administration. That's I don't think I need a lot of explanation there, but basically if you read their social media feeds, it's just one misleading or false immigration message after another.
Does AI make immigration law more humane or colder?
I actually sort of take the optimist view. I think it can make it more humane if lawyers are using the time AI is freeing up to spend it communicating better with their clients. I've said this before, but AI won't take jobs away from lawyers, except maybe the lawyers with bad personalities.
That's always a good reason to continue to, if that, maybe it's one of your 2026
Arm
resolutions.
school will be a new thing for lawyers that may be more necessary in the AI age.
Absolutely. Burnout in 2026, better or worse than it has been?
I don't see any immediate relief. I think the AI might begin to offset burnout by taking on some of the draining tasks that lawyers are dealing with, but it's still going to be hard.
And finally, what's one skill young immigration lawyers must develop that AI won't replace?
They still have to master the law. AI amplifies expertise. It doesn't create it. And lawyers that don't really understand the law can't use AI as effectively as the lawyers that do.
Awesome. Well, that's the lightning round, Greg. You got through it. And I thought those were some really interesting answers. And I think a lot of stuff that hopefully people are thinking about. I think all of those topics are sort of relevant and things that are being discussed. One opportunity, though, if you want to give us a bold prediction that we haven't covered today, or maybe just touched on, what you think we should be looking out for in 2026.
I think that by the end of the year, the percentage of immigration lawyers regularly using an immigration specific AI product will triple. Not because of hype, but because the general purpose tools won't be enough. There are going to be more products out there. The products are going to be better. And I think lawyers are going to see it as something that is a necessity in their practices as opposed to a luxury.
All right. That's bold. That's a threefold increase is quite a bit. But yeah, I think that those are all items that I could definitely see. And hey, if you said it, Greg, I believe you.
Well, we'll see at the end of the year.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that pretty much does it for today, Greg. I appreciate you coming in and everybody stopping by and watching. Again, Immigration Legal Tech Conversations is presented by Visa Law AI. If you heard anything today and you haven't implemented, if your New Year's resolution is to adopt AI into your legal practice, you want to have the AI evaluation sheet. You can download that free guidance that we put together. That includes some of Greg's obvious expertise. You can look in the LinkedIn and YouTube comments as well. They should have links there. We've also linked to the ABA Bar 2-year report. You can find that on Greg's LinkedIn as well. Subscribe to the Visa Law YouTube for continued coverage throughout the year with Immigration Legal Tech Conversations, or you can find it on Greg's LinkedIn. Greg, do you have any resolutions for the year?
I do resolutions every year. I usually don't publicize what they are, but usually they're around fitness and that kind of thing. But I do have the resolution. This resolution is centered around trying to do a lot more writing, and I will I will have a new book that is coming out this year, a new title that's already in draft. But I have I'm going to a lot of the writing I'm going to be doing is going to be centered around AI this year.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one of my resolutions as well, to do a bit more writing and replace that with some of the screen time that I would have otherwise. So hopefully I can do that, which I don't, the irony is not missed on me that I'm on a screen right now. So, well, Greg, thank you so much. Again,
Thanks,
this
Ian.
was a lot of fun, and thank you everybody for tuning in. And that's this week. Oh, and I will say, look out. We're going to be missing our regular schedule of the next 2 weeks. We'll be on January 26th, I believe. That's the sort of third Monday following today. Is that correct, Greg? Was the 26th what we agreed on?
Yeah, the 26th. I have some happy family news that's happening in the middle of the month. That is, I will tell folks about after.
Wonderful. And we're going to have the great Ruby Powers is going to be joining us as well. So
I'm real excited about it. I've been on Ruby's podcast before, and she's a really she's a really a big thought leader in law practice management for immigration lawyers. I know we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. So don't miss out on that, and make sure you stay up to date. Watch Greg's LinkedIn for the next posting, or follow our YouTube, subscribe, and you won't miss that information. Or you can subscribe to the Visa Law newsletter. But yeah, that's all the promo we have for this week. We look forward to the year, Greg.
Thanks, everybody.